All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is September 19th. It is 4 p.m. and I will call to order the Curry County Board of Commissioners meeting. And first order of business is please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Amendment and approval of the agenda. I know we have several things, and I just want to make a comment before we get into amending the agenda that we do our best to try to put this out well in advance for the public to see with all of the associated documents with it, so the public can review it. It also helps us, it helps me to have time to review and do independent research and be as prepared as we can. However, as occurred this week, sometimes what happens is we have things that either they don't make it on time, or they're really time sensitive. And one of the things that we had talked about in the beginning of the year was not holding up the government process. So just because something didn't get on the agenda, we want to try to do our best to make sure that we are not impeding the progress we're making. So sometimes, like today, we have quite a few things to add, and let's amend that agenda now. So on consent calendar, we need to add the Oregon State Marine Board contract, and we can put that on G.
On consent?
On consent, and that's basically the opportunity for a Marine Board to get some more money from the state.
And aquatic safety, mainly,
Yeah, I'm sorry, aquatic safety, yeah.
through the Marine Board.
Through the Marine Board, yeah, correct. And then the next thing that I have is Lieutenant Crone has asked to remove under discussion action items, number A, and that's the salary freeze. So we can eliminate that.
Okay.
Can you, you can just, or, yeah, that'll work. Say, or ask them to hold off on concrete drilling.
And then, so we can move the corrections deputy overhire positions topic to, we can make that A. And then, I'd like to add a higher order for a corrections deputy, and that's Levi.
You can put that on consent.
Yeah, we can put that on consent.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. That would be H.
I think it's G, isn't it?
No, that's aquatic safety.
Marine
Oh,
Board.
okay. Oh, okay.
And Levi was a patrol deputy, and we're going to bring him back as a corrections deputy. And that's very time sensitive because of our current staffing levels right now. So we'd like to get that done as soon as we can. And then under discussion items, we can go to B, and that will be the resolution for the Fair Board. And Ted can explain that. So that's B. Also a time-sensitive issue. as it has to do with obtaining a grant. Let's see.
I'd like to add the discussion about the proposal to support Jackson County's
Fire map?
letter to repeal Oregon State Bill 762 and Senate Bill 80.
Okay, we'll put that at C. Okay, so we have, let's see, salary freeze, higher order, Marine Board, we've got on there, Jackson County. I think that's all I have.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if this is commissioner updates or discussion action, but the Rotary Club in Port Orford has asked that if we could burn that unit we logged on by the airport road in the Thanksgiving week. And then the Rotary is willing to manage the whole planting of the whole thing. You know, if we get the trees, they're gonna supply the 300, remember, the redwood trees? Do we wanna do that in a,
You want them burned when?
No, we would be burning, they would be planting.
yeah, we would be, well, they were thinking the week of Thanksgiving, so
'Cause school's
Monday,
out.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, we'll
Huh? Well,
do our best.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody who likes to light a fire more than I do. But,
okay,
you know, it depends on the weather and it depends
Right.
on, and those are some big piles. So they're not gonna just be, it's not gonna be, when do they wanna plant?
December,
But-
and I didn't know what the time,
So when you burn a big pile,
Yeah.
that spot's gonna stay hot and like keep
Yeah,
burning for
for
a
a
long
while.
time.
depending on weather.
So I think, I mean, if they can come in and they can plant around, we can plant, you know, if it's feasible, they can plant and then we can come back and replant the pile spots later in the year when they're cool.
So let's come back to this on commissioner updates.
Okay.
Because I think if anything, it's a consensus. I don't think it's really a
Yeah,
board action.
gotcha.
Yeah, we'll make it, we'll work.
Okay. Anything else, Jay?
Oh, discussion regarding the current suit. The tribes have
Bone?
filed against Bone. I think, you know, it's more of a consensus, but it's definitely worthy of
Yeah, you better add
discussion.
better add that for discussion.
D,
Yeah.
D. Okay. I feel like I'm missing something. There's so many different things on this one. That's an update, that's an update. That's all I have on my list. Anything else, John?
no, sir.
Jay? Okay, I'd entertain a motion then.
So moved, as amended.
Second?
All right, motion and a second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0. And next up is service awards. Jay, who's our,
So our recipients we will be providing them with formal acknowledgement in person at our next meeting on the 6th. But I will just say that it was Remax Coast and Country and Amanda and Tyler Travis were the individuals. So they will be here in person at our next meeting to receive their award.
sounds good. All right, next up is general public comments, and I don't have any public comments today. So we'll move forward to the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second that motion.
All right, I want to just pause for a second, because we do have the proclamation of Constitution Week.
Oh.
Would you like to say something? Please.
I just
Yeah.
read this for our school district last night.
Oh,
so
I know, I saw that. Happy
happy to read that
Constitution Week,
again.
y'all.
Yeah.
We are pleased that you once again are giving us a proclamation for Constitution Week. Constitution Day was 2 days ago, but I've been wearing my red, white, and blue all week. One of the big tenets of Daughters of the American Revolution is patriotism, along with historic preservation and education. So we try to make sure that we spread the word among the schools, which I delivered off different books pertaining to Constitution at grade levels to Riley and then to the junior, senior high this week. Last year, I know we did coloring pages and things like that. So we just try to bring it up because so many people go, what's Constitution Week? And the Constitution is something that's in the news a lot lately. So we'd like to bring it to everyone's attention, and if anybody ever wants a copy of the Constitution, I can get them for you. But we thank you so much, and we love the patriotism of the city of Gold Beach and the county of Curry, and we're just happy to help that along and make sure that our little guys grow up to be big patriots. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you mind if I read it?
Oh, go right ahead.
Would you mind, Chair?
Oh, please.
Because I think it's important to not just note. I would have pulled that off for discussion. I did my bad. So, in the matter of a resolution proclaiming September 15th to the 21st as 2024 as Constitution Week. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limiting government in a republic dedicated to the rule of law, and whereas September 17th, 2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is appropriate to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas the United States of America designates September 15th through the 21st as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved, September 15th through the 21st is proclaimed as Constitution Week by the Board of County Commissioners on this 19th day of September 2024.
Thank you.
Very good.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
you for all you do.
Yep.
We appreciate you. All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
And yes, motion passes 3-0. Now we'll move into a public hearing. Guys, you've been through this before. This is annexations into rural fire protection districts, so please bear with us as we work through this this necessary process we have. This is a public hearing before the Board of Commissioners conducted pursuant to ORS 198.857, annexation without election by petition of landowner. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved?
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
And yes, motion passes 3-0. Now, the hearing is now open at 4:13 p.m. We have 6 annexations into different rural fire protection districts. 24-28, owner is am I saying that right? Into the Ophir Rural Fire Protection District. 24-29, owner is Griffin, into the Wedderburn Rural Fire Protection District. 24-30, owner is Labonte, into the Cedar Valley North Bank Rural Fire Protection District. 24-31, owner is Budak, into the Ophir Rural Fire Protection District. 24-32, owner is Budak, into the Ophir Rural Fire Protection District. And 24-33, owner is Budak, into the Ophir Rural Fire Protection District. Do any of these owners wish to speak? I don't see any here. Do we have any other public comments? And I don't see any. So now I would
Okay, you ready for this?
accept a motion. Go ahead.
It's only 6 this time.
Yeah, it's not
Okay,
bad.
here we go. I will move to approve the petition for annexation of BOC annexation number 24-28.
Second? Oh, we do
Motion.
individually?
Yep, motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes?
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0.
I'll move to approve the petition for annexation of BOC annexation number 24-29.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes?
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0.
I will move to approve the petition for annexation, BOC annexation number 24-30.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0.
I'll move to approve the petition for annexation of BOC annexation number 24-31.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0.
I will move to approve the petition for annexation to BOC annexation number 24-32.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0.
I will move to approve the petition for annexation, BOC annexation number 24-33.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0. This hearing is now closed at 4:16 hours. And we are back into our regular business meeting and our agenda. We are moving on now to discussion action items. And the first one up is corrections deputy overhire positions.
Good evening, Lieutenant Jeremy Crone, the Curry County Jail Commander. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Commissioners for adding Deputy Eastland's hire order to the meeting tonight. He brings a wealth of experience and knowledge back to the Sheriff's Office, and we're glad to have him back. Unfortunately, he'll have to go to the Academy in October, or in December, for a couple of weeks to get certified, but we're excited to have him back. I placed the overhire ARS on the meeting today to discuss the potential of being able to hire positions over what we're currently budgeted for. The reason for that is, as of today, even with hiring Deputy Eastland back, we have one open position. We did have a testing interview process, and a couple of weeks ago I told everyone that we got the most applicants we've had in a long time. On Wednesday we did the testing, 2 people showed up. So those 2 people we did place in the background. It's part of the hiring process. We'll see where that flushes out. That's a 6 to 8 week process. So we haven't got their packets back yet, but if we get them back, we're 6 to 8 weeks out from even looking to get them on the ground. It is anticipated with a patrol deputy position becoming available, I believe next week, that likely one of the patrol or the corrections deputies currently in the jail is going to be able to go back to the patrol division, which will leave us with 2 open positions to fill. I'm asking to be able to overhire for these positions because we have the anticipation still that we're going to have 4 people leaving in the next 2 to 4 months because of their background processes and wanting to leave the area. And with a 8-week potential background process, we can't hire and train people quick enough to get them into academy dates. I looked today, the next academy that we can get somebody into, if we get them hired today and boots on the ground, is for January 13th. And there are 9 open positions for that. The state of Oregon does a first come, first served basis, and those typically fill up very, very quickly. It's not uncommon for us to be 6 months out for an academy. So I just want to be able to train people so we're not running short-staffed. I'm not asking for 5 additional deputies, to fill what I think we're going to need. It's just to be able to keep up with people leaving and have people trained up and potentially get people back onto the patrol side.
What you're saying makes sense, Jeremy. The question is, how do we pay for it?
So, I ran financials this week for every position or every department. So for the jail department specifically, the problem that we run into right now is due to the amount of overtime that we are paying staff to cover the positions that we already are shorthanded. We are at budget. So if we were to bring 2 potential people on board, that would definitely put us over budget at this point, in the hopes that somebody leaves. Best case scenario would be to bring additional staff on and not have everybody work full time in order to have extra people but reduced FTEs in order to stay within budget. That's just my best case scenario potentially.
I think
But-
we'd have to do a union.
Absolutely, it would require discussions.
So, but we're not, like, right now, like, we just did the one hire, and then the 2 people that just came in, that's not included in the overhire. I mean, the 2 people that are in background right now, that's not what you're talking about, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
No, you'd be talking about 2 additional people.
Yeah, 2
Okay.
additional to be able to plan for those people leaving.
Yeah,
I know Keenan and I, we had talked about with one of the deputies being on military leave, being able to still have her position available for when she returns, but be able to temporarily hire somebody for that position in the interim. That could be part of this overhire as a thing, because I don't believe we're paying her salary.
We're not paying her salary, but again, we're paying, so every shift is
Oh,
covered
yeah.
currently, but it's covered due to overtime. So even though we have less personnel, we have more expenses because of
Overtime.
overtime increases your PERS rate, increases everything, so the cost is astronomically higher. So we're running at budget right now with reduced FTE, so that's where we're at.
First of all, Lieutenant Crone, I 100% appreciate your looking forward
Yeah,
and trying to be proactive. So I have a thought. Are a lot of the individuals that are applying and are potentially seemingly being selected, do they have experience in law enforcement, or are some of them?
Of the 5 applications we received, none of them had experience in law enforcement.
Okay, so there is an opportunity here that we could explore. I would suggest that maybe we explore this, and then, maybe come back with an idea potentially. But if we were to look at partnering with SOWEB, SOWEB will oftentimes pay for the first 12 weeks of an individual's employment while they're going through the training phase, which would be 3 months, which would essentially provide us with the window that you're looking for to maybe bring someone on, but not have to incur all the costs of the training portion while we wait for some others to go through their process. So I would say let's explore that, because they've been good partners in the past.
We're using them now, yeah.
Yeah, and just it's the one only the real prerequisite is that they're going into a profession that they don't have history with. So there could be.
was there a law enforcement exemption with them?
I don't believe there was. I mean, it's something we have to explore.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't.
yeah.
I don't think.
I can't recall.
I don't either. So there's a.
I like that idea. I'm not familiar with your organization, so if I can partner with either you or Ted.
It's the Southern Oregon Workforce Investment Board, and they have an office in South County in Harbor, and yeah, let's.
Oh, we can call them tomorrow and see if if it'll work.
I don't think we've used them for law enforcement, but it doesn't mean that we can't.
We have a gentleman from IT that we brought on from them, and I
Good
know-
idea, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so
good idea, Jay.
And I know the one thing that, because the sheriff and I, we've talked about this, one of his ideas was we can still put people through the process without hiring them until we have those spots. And my concern with that is the background and psych evaluation, 1, costs money, but 2, it's very intensive for law enforcement. So if you put me through that and then put me on a waiting
Right.
list,
You're gonna find another job.
yeah, I'm not gonna stick around.
Yeah.
So I want to be forward thinking. I want to be ready to strike while the iron's hot and be able to keep our
I
staff.
think that's a great idea. That'd be a way we get people on, and that would
It
be
gives us a
helpful.
window.
Yeah.
No,
So-
yeah, what you're saying makes sense. We just gotta be able to pay for it.
Oh,
That's all.
absolutely. So
So, all right,
appreciate everyone's
Yep.
time.
all right, thank you. All right, next up is B, and that's the resolution for the Fair Board, Ted.
Okay, so over the last year, the Fair Board has applied for and gotten a grant from Business Oregon to address roof repair of the arena. And we're just right on the cusp of being able to do that, but there was some, it's unclear to Business Oregon and for that matter, me, about some of the previous documentation that went between the fair and the county over the years. In 2006, the county entered into a memorandum of understanding with, excuse me, with the Fair Board, which detailed the various parties' individual responsibilities. And it was pretty clear, pretty simple. And then that same day, the county loaned the Fair Board $50,000, and they said it would be paid back in 2009 or 11 or something like that. Didn't get paid back, got forgiven. There were all these intervening agreements, and somehow, somewhere in there was reference to the county owning the buildings on the fairgrounds. And that was always confusing to me, and I wasn't sure why we would want to own the buildings, because the buildings are if we own the buildings, then it would seem like the county would be individually responsible for the maintenance of that, where the agreement, the original 2006 agreement, says the Fair Board is responsible for that. And the Fair Board, remember, operates underneath the county, but it's a kind of a subdivision of the county, but it's a standalone situation, and those funds that they have they're not accessible by the county itself. And so I don't think that it was unclear to Business Oregon. They wanted to make sure that both parties were on board with clarifying the roles and responsibilities of the county and the Fair Board with regard to the monies that are going to be spent. And so the resolution does that. It just doesn't need to be read aloud, but basically it reaffirms the original 2006 agreement, and it says the building, structures, and other improvements currently situated at the Fair Board shall hereinafter be considered to be vested in the Curry County Fair Board, because that's where the real property that they own, that's where it's held.
Yep.
And that's going to make things a lot more clear going forward. And the county won't be responsible for the ongoing maintenance of those buildings. The Fair Board will, and the county has a relationship with the Fair Board, and we've been working together to get stuff done. Over the last year, we've made a lot of progress too.
We have, and we have a lot of good things on the horizon. This was a big point of conversation that we had in Tuesday night's Fair Board meeting, was about this specific resolution. And we need this resolution in order to meet the grant requirements, and we've got to submit that. Terry, when do we need to submit that? It's like right away, right? Yeah.
You have
So,
a copy of the resolution? All right. Would you like me to read the resolution proposal into the record?
sure.
Well, certainly. This is your night for reading aloud.
Hey, last night at the school board meeting, I read there's an enormous amount. It was crazy. So now I'm just into it. Okay. In the matter of the resolution clarifying the ownership of structures and improvements at the Curry County Fairgrounds, whereas the Curry County Board of Commissioners and the Curry County Fair Board wish to clarify their respective roles and responsibilities, and whereas the parties commemorated various roles and responsibilities by way of a 2006 Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, and whereas one outstanding issue remains regarding the vesting of the structures and improvements at the fairground, and whereas a 2011 MOU between the parties stated that the building of the fairgrounds are owned by the county, and whereas the Curry County Board of Commissioners does not have any information regarding the validity of the ownership of the structures at the fairground being separately vested from the real property, which is vested by deed to the Curry County Fair Board. Now therefore, the Curry County Board of Commissioners resolves as follows: the memorandum of understanding dated March 6, 2006, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference is in good standing order and still applicable to the parties. Number 2, the building structures and other improvements currently situated at the fairgrounds shall here and thereafter be considered to be vested in the Curry County Fair Board. Dated this 19th day of September 2024. So essentially, we will be putting to rest the who owns the buildings at the fair.
Correct.
Yes. Finally.
Okay?
For now.
Does the fair board know what they're getting into?
Yep.
Jerry Hughes, Curry County Fair Manager, and we came to this because we found a title report. There's a lot of muddied documents about who owns what, and some people have those documents and some people don't. And the title report states that the title is a fee simple title, and that is a legal term used in real estate that means that the property is the fair board's. That's how it states. So.
Okay. Well, this makes things a lot less muddy,
Yeah.
you know, when the land was the fair boards and the buildings were the counties. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And it'll meet the requirements needed for the grant, so.
Because remember, we're trying to get the roof fixed.
Right.
Let's get the grant money and get the roof fixed.
Okay.
And that memorandum spells out our relationship with the county, and we want to respect that and continue that
Sure.
absolute.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I will move to approve the resolution clarifying the ownership of structures and improvements at the Curry County Fairgrounds.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
And yes, motion passes
It needs your signature.
3-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
You
you.
want to take it?
Well, that's printed on both sides.
Oh, disregard. We'll have to get you the right.
Yeah,
What?
I've got one that's printed.
Yeah.
Because we all three have to sign it,
Would you like
I think.
Get
Yeah,
it.
that's,
Okay.
and something for away the double-sided.
I can.
I hate double-sided.
You can just hand this down to Terry, I guess. There we go. There you go, John.
to sign it too.
All right, we'll move forward on the agenda while we're signing this and getting it over to Terry. So next up on the agenda is C, and that is the Jackson County letter that we all got an email about. And that's regarding joining them in their efforts on the fight against the wildfire hazard map. And Jay, I think you responded to the email, right?
I did. I let them know that we would likely be in support of this, but that we would discuss it in today's meeting.
Do you think you could read that email to the?
Certainly. So essentially, this is a letter requesting the repeal of the Oregon State Senate Bills 762 and Senate Bill 80, which are the Senate bills that are the reason for the creation of the Wildfire Risk Assessment Mapping Program. And so it is, there are, as we know, I've beat this horse for a while now, there's so many inaccuracies in this map that it is hard to really consider valid. And, you know, the three main things for I think for us is the fact that that there was no use of historical fire data in terms of history of fires along our coastline. There's federal and state lands are exempt from any from any action needing to be taken from the fire mapping, meaning they do not have to take any precautions to protect the urban interface areas from wildfire. And 3, all of the onus from this map translates to private ownership and essentially making it more costly to build, repair, remodel in our rural areas, especially in our urban interface zones, with the new building and planning provisions, as well as the issues that have been arising from increased insurance rates and/or non-renewals or not being willing to write new policies. So I would say that we support this by either attaching our signatures and logo to it or attaching our own letter.
I'd like to write our own letter because I'd like to include the things that are unique about this county, the marine layer, the fog that we experience in South County and Central too, as well as some of the historical fire statistical information that's unique to this county. That wasn't, none of those were factored into that map.
No.
So I think we kind of use this as a guide, and then we modify it to include the unique
So you think
circumstance of.
do both, support this letter and signature, and
Yep.
then create our own letter as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That's my recommendation anyway.
I would agree.
I concur.
All right.
Let's do that.
Do we need a motion?
Nope.
All right. All right, we will, no further discussion on that. We'll move forward to D, which is the tribal lawsuit with the windmills.
So, the tribes have filed suit against the federal government, against BOEM, which isn't is not federal government, it's an agency of, but anyways, and I think this presents an opportunity for us to not only weigh in, but support that effort. And so I think what I'd like to do is direct Ted to reach out to the tribes to see how we can support this. I think that the fact that we have already requested coordination that has not been responded to prior to the leases being essentially, the call area is being leased off in October 15th. I think that strengthens their case as well. I think it would be good to add that there's more local support from, as you know, there's county government support as well as the tribes. I will say that I met yesterday. I spoke with the Brookings Harbor Port Commission meeting, and they are considering also drafting a resolution in support of opposition. Yeah. In opposition of the turbine, in support of the opposition, no, in opposition of the turbine,
No
the
support.
wind turbine project. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, I support that.
I-
Yeah. Yeah, I support taking whatever action we can to stop those windmills from going in the ocean.
Well, the
Absolutely.
biggest thing right now is stopping
Stopping
the
yeah,
leases,
the leases.
the call areas from being leased, because once that occurs, doesn't matter if a windmill goes up, they have the ability to lock recreators and fishermen out of those areas of the ocean.
And for the public watching, that is right around the corner, October 15th.
That is the planned date to list those for bid.
All right. Further discussion on that?
None.
None? All right, moving forward, we're up to Director of County Operations update. I didn't forget it this time, Ted.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, probably first on the list, we did Lieutenant Crone reached out and we met with him, Rabia and I met with him and looked at some issues over at the jail that need, addressing. It's gonna make things, we've got some kind of maintenance, kind of like, sort of long-term maintenance, that's sort of an infrastructure thing. We'll have to just figure out how we're gonna buck that stuff, but it needs to get done. The things that we looked at right now are costing the jail a lot in efficiency and money. One, just the modifying the new washing machine approach. We're gonna have to do some concrete cutting to kind of take a few outmoded pieces of infrastructure out of that system so that it'll run better and smoother and easier, and they won't be having to spend so much time. Charles' maintenance is, he and Jeremy Crone are really on more than a first-name basis because they spend a lot of time over there. We looked at that. We also looked at some other plumbing issues. We're gonna be moving forward on that. We're gonna get some numbers on that and figure out how to get those done in the most efficient way possible. One of the things we're gonna be addressing is the roof up above Lieutenant Aranda's office that where Commissioner Herzog is familiar with it. I saw some of your work up there trying to stem the tide of basically the rain puddles up there and just leaks throughout the entire jail and through much of the jail, and it's.
Well, down
it's
into dispatch, right?
Right, so we're gonna work on a plan to address that and kind of change the drainage up there, in a way that I think is gonna be the most cost effective and quick that we can get done, so. Anyway, we'll let you know, Keena.
And you can find some money.
Dollar signs.
Yeah.
We probably have to work the weekends, but, anyway, it's stuff that needs to get done one way or another, because that's our building, and we gotta address the issues, and I'm glad that you reached out, and we'll make it our first priority.
The rain is coming.
So we got that, let's see, you have anything else that, I don't think we need to address anymore on that. Let's see, one thing I wanted that Scott Fine had brought to my attention, we've been receiving fairly serious communications from serious developers from the Portland area that are looking at Curry County and wanting to know what's developable and what they can look at buying and what they can do on the parcels that are available for sale and development. And I guess that the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is a different tone than what we've seen in the past. These are serious people that want to bring development down south of Bandon now, and it was only a matter of time. This is a beautiful place. People are going to come here, and I just wanted to let you know that that's it. As far as we're kind of retooling the planning department and the associated services that we provide with that, one of which is the GIS service. We're gonna be figuring a way to kind of reallocate the money that's being spent on that in a way to make it be used more effectively, right? And Scott Fine and I are talking about that, but our GIS mapping system, the way that it is right now, does not accurately reflect a lot of what the reality is in Curry County right now. And so we're in a position where people are relying on those GIS maps because we don't have any other maps. We need to make sure that those maps are accurate so that when people rely on county information, they're not relying on false information and potentially creating a cause of action against the county down the road. And we want people to know what they're buying and what they can do with it. So we're talking about, we have some funding that's part of the recording fees that can go toward GIS. And we're looking at how we might want to reallocate some of that and perhaps have a person that spent at least some of their time, somebody who was qualified to be doing that, so that we can bring our GIS. Right now, we're getting it all done by Lane Council of Governments, and they're not here, and they're not familiar with the reality on the ground, and so I think, anyway, we're looking at that. That's an area that I just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on that, because people are serious and they do want to come here, and we need to do a better job of making that possible for them.
Yeah.
That's one way to, that's the fundamental way to address your funding situation, is increase your tax base, to the extent that you can.
Yep.
One thing that we noticed over the last, as we're looking at just the way that the county has been dealing with development over the last 30, 40 years. Historically, we were doing about 200 new lots between partitions and subdivisions every year, until about maybe 2 decades ago. And now we struggle to do 20
Wow.
a year. And that's, that there are a variety of factors that feed into that. And I shouldn't say now, that's been going on for quite some time. We need to address that. That's one of the reasons that we're in the situation funding wise that we are, because we have not been encouraging growth and moving forward with that. And I think we at least have to, other counties I asked, and, for example, in Jackson County, the amount of development they have has been increasing by maybe about 10 or 15% every year on top of, it's continually growing, not decreasing. So something has been going on there, and we need to address that. And because we really do, I mean, we've seen, we have people living here that they need assistance in being able to help us all pay for the services that we provide and that they want. So that's the best way to do that, is through growth. And let's see, the last thing I have for you is, a bar complaint has been brought against me by the sheriff, and I have hired ethics counsel to deal with that, but I need to make you guys aware, the commission, of, this is what we call a personal conflict of interest disclosure, and informed consent. You have some options regarding my services as county counsel, and whether you want me to proceed in the role that I am, or do you want to hire outside counsel to deal with the sheriff's department? Anyway, I can read you this letter aloud if you'd like. Okay.
Sure.
Dear Board of Commissioners, as you know, I currently represent Perry County as county legal counsel. I'm writing now to confirm our recent discussion wherein I advise you of a recent Oregon State bar complaint filed against me by Sheriff John Ward. In his complaint, Sheriff Ward alleges that I have a conflict of interest because I represent the county and also represent him individually. As we have discussed, I firmly disagree with his allegation. The county is my only client, and I give advice to the county through its duly authorized constituents. As you also know, I have retained counsel to represent me in those bar proceedings. The purpose of this letter is to explain the personal conflict of interest that has now arisen for me as a result of Sheriff Ward's complaint, and to seek the board's consent to my continuing to represent the county as legal counsel despite the allegations of a personal conflict. As we discussed, if you give consent, I will continue to represent Curry County as county legal counsel. The Oregon Rules of Professional Conduct prohibit an attorney from representing a client when the attorney's personal interests conflict with those of the client's, unless the client consents after being informed of the nature of the conflict, the risks involved, and possible alternatives to providing consent. Consequently, I can continue to act as the county's lawyer in this matter only if you give your informed consent confirmed in writing. Clients that are asked to waive or consent to personal conflicts typically should consider whether their attorney's professional judgment will be materially limited by their own personal interests in the matter, by my own personal interests in the matter. For example, in this matter, there may be concern that I will pursue or avoid certain strategies in order to protect my own interests, or that my continued representation of the county could or might affect the zealousness or eagerness with which I continue to represent you. Finally, the board should consider whether or not my ability to protect the county's confidential client communications will be impaired in any way by my desire to protect my own interests. Although I believe these risks are minimal, the board must necessarily decide this. Alternatives to consenting to my continued representation include, but are not limited to, seeking replacement counsel for matters pertaining to the Curry County Sheriff's Office. When I informed you of this, it was made clear that the board wants me to continue as the attorney acting on their behalf. Nevertheless, the rules of professional conduct require me to recommend that the board consult independent counsel to determine whether consent should be given, and I encourage that. The board is not obligated to consult such counsel if they do not wish to do so, however. I am happy to discuss this matter further with the board or an attorney of their choosing. If the board decides to consent to my continuing representation, please sign the enclosed copy of this letter and return it to me for your file. Thank you. So I will give you, what I would propose, I give you each copies of those letters. You can review them, and if you want to consult with me further, you can do it offline. I just wanted to get that on the record.
We should, you'd probably set a deadline on a decision on how to move forward, as these are pretty pressing matters.
Yep.
So, Chair, I would suggest that the commissioners have an opportunity to vet this as Mr. Fitzgerald just recommended, and then we should probably, I mean, it may require, would it require a special meeting?
They're individual letters,
They're
correct?
individual letters. If it just get me, you can return them to me.
Okay.
Depending, and if you guys want to meet separately, you can do that. But that's kind of outside my purview, so.
Okay,
I don't know that we need an independent meeting.
okay.
Maybe we set a deadline of,
Next meeting?
Monday?
yeah,
Well,
I'm
that
trying
would-
to think of what's time sensitive.
I think Monday would be good, because we have things that are moving forward, so.
Yeah.
You guys could,
You don't need them by the end of the day tomorrow?
No, no.
Monday's okay?
Monday's fine, you bet.
Okay, so we'll say end of the day on Monday. Does that work for both of you?
Yep.
All right. Lieutenant Crone, you have a question? Please.
So unfortunately, I mean, the sheriff isn't here. I don't think he knew this was a topic. Or he did, I don't know. I can't speak on his behalf. I think it would be prudent to individually, as commissioners, reach out to him regarding this and ask him about seeking independent counsel for the sheriff's office. I know through having been at the office, that is a topic that has come up, that is a wish of his, but again, I can't speak on his behalf for that. Monday, I think, is a good deadline, I think, between the three of you guys to vet the letter that was presented and reach out to him. I think that might be a good idea, so we can move forward.
It's actually your decision. I'm your
It is.
lawyer.
Yeah.
It is.
So that's a,
Thank you, Jerry.
yeah, that would be a thing that you guys have to decide.
Yeah, because
Right.
basically, you could represent the county in everything except the sheriff's office.
I have no reason to say that I couldn't represent the
that's-
sheriff's
that's
office.
not-
Okay,
If someone wants to allege that there's a conflict, I would need to know what it is. I haven't been made aware of any conflict, so.
well, I meant just the conflict between the suit and, so you can still represent,
There's no conflict. There's, the
Okay.
county's not adverse to the sheriff.
No.
The sheriff's office can't be adverse to the county.
Gotcha.
It's impossible to. They're part of the same.
The conflict would be if Ted was representing the sheriff, he could not represent the county.
Individual.
The sheriff individually.
yeah.
If I were representing you individually,
Couldn't
I
represent
couldn't
the county.
represent the
Gotcha,
county.
yeah.
I could if the county commissioners all waived that conflict. But it's not a good idea, because it depends on what the scenario was, but if your interest somehow became adverse, then I couldn't represent you. But in this case, I'm not aware of any, representing the sheriff's office, that's just part of the county. It's like representing the road department. It's the same thing.
Right, and here's the other issue, and Keena, correct me if I'm wrong, but we currently, in our legal department, we are 110% over budget?
145% over.
145% over budget. Okay, I was wrong. And we're 2 months into the budget. And a lot of those are largely cases of litigation related to the sheriff's office.
Correct.
So let's keep that in mind.
Yeah, so to spend money, to have somebody read this letter and say, it's like good money after bad.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Well, I think that,
I mean, we can read it and, I mean, we're not lawyers, but
what I just was responding to that thing that Brad said about the legal budget being 145% over normal budget, what's been budgeted. Bear in mind that the amount of time that I spend in this job doing legal services for this county is quite small, maybe 15% of my time.
Right.
Those charges are arising out of the numerous lawyers for the numerous
Right.
ongoing litigations that either predated my hire or in some cases have arisen. And not all, but the majority of those are involving the sheriff's department to some
Right.
degree or another.
Which is why we have been asking for specific information to help mitigate a lot of this information. And that's why we've been asking the questions in part, and because of those rising costs. And I thought it was 110%. I didn't know it was 145. So it's a significant amount of money being 2 months into the budget. So it is concerning. So, all right, any further discussion on that, guys? Jay? All right, so now we are on to commissioner updates. So Commissioner Herzog, you had mentioned earlier the Rotary Club?
the Rotary Club in Port Orford, and they're just wondering if, they're looking at their calendar with the high school principal, and they're thinking the week of Thanksgiving would be a good week to burn.
I
They'll
think,
be off a week.
I agree with that, just because they're off, that's great.
And we could, we'll work, the road department will work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because they're gonna be kind of in charge of that, Ted, or a lot of the road,
I was thinking about making animal control in charge of it, but
okay.
it should probably be the road department.
Yeah, so, yeah, they're just wanting to know if that would be working for us, and I said I'd bring it to the board, and then the Rotary said they're willing to manage the whole planting if we have the trees.
So who's gonna break it to the road department that they miss Thanksgiving, John?
No, they don't miss it. If we burned Monday,
It's the week of.
yeah, so,
Okay, we'll make it
you
work.
don't think?
No, I think, no, we'll make it work.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah, I know
and then you
everybody,
get Thursday, Friday off.
everybody in that area has been wanting to get that project moving forward,
Yeah.
so weather permitting.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Weather permitting, we
Yeah.
will take that action. And then, obviously, if they can, depending on the extent of the burn, if they
Yeah.
can plant, they can, but we,
You could plant around those piles and then just come back and fill them in later.
Yeah, well-
That's easy.
but we definitely appreciate their offer to do that, John.
Yeah.
And, absolutely, I mean, I would support that.
Yeah, I said, well, if you want to take care of manage the planting, yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
all right.
So Ted, I guess just having the tree, it's up to the county to supply,
Yeah, we'll work on
yeah.
that. We've ordered them, so
okay?
we'll follow up with our guys.
All right. Anything else, John?
No, sir.
Jay?
Yeah, so, one of the overarching topics of conversation has been weighing heavily on me for quite some time. So I actually have prepared a statement that I'd like to read. It's a little lengthy, so please bear with me. I've been reading a lot lately. But this matter is, I believe, important, doesn't do it justice in terms of, I think, how vital it is. So if you would be okay for me
Yes.
to read this, I will.
Absolutely.
Okay. So at this time, I feel an obligation to bring clarity to an issue that I know each of us has been questioned about, and that is the current standing of public safety. Please understand, clarity does not mean answers, and in this case, much of the clarity is clouded in uncertainty and unanswered questions. However, as I mentioned before, while we are still looking for solutions, we can only provide the information as to where we are in the process of obtaining them, and I think it is appreciated by some and transparent to most. As you likely know, the county proposed a funding measure to fully fund public safety to levels that would have provided 24/7, 365-day patrol coverage. That measure failed. When it failed, a budget committee meeting was held the following day to decide how to proceed. Being $2.1 million short in the general funded obligations and having to decide if and how much of the road fund reserves to fund road patrol dominated our discussions. As far as I can tell, this was the beginning of where the communication between the Board of Commissioners and the sheriff began to erode. Please note that this is just a summary. This was a long process, and there were a lot of moving parts. During the budget process, the Budget Committee requested a list of metrics from the sheriff to better understand what level of service was being provided with the use of the 23-24 budgeted $3.12 million in road fund reserves. The answers provided were incomplete. The Budget Committee decided that we still needed to use road fund reserves to fund road patrol. However, it was determined that continued use of the previous year's rate of $3.12 million was not sustainable. The committee decided to dedicate $1.2 million of the road fund reserves to patrol. The sheriff presented a budget that cut the current open positions, leaving a 1 to 2.75 staff to supervisor ratio, or in law enforcement speak, span of control. However, it was still over the amount the budget committee had allocated. Chair Alcorn presented an alternate plan, which would have reduced the number of supervisory positions and increased the number of deputy positions, along with adding 3 new positions funded by restricted funds and the consolidation of animal control into the sheriff's office. These additional positions were a community resource officer who would address the transient population calls and provide opioid education, a school resource officer who would work in the schools during the school year to provide safety, security, and education, and when school is out, would be able to transition to the community resource officer duties and double those efforts during the summer. These positions would have been funded by the state-provided opioid settlement money. Consolidating animal control into the sheriff's office would have provided additional staff to serve civil summons in the community when not performing animal control duties. This would have taken some of the responsibility off the deputies so they could focus more on public safety matters. The sheriff rejected this plan upon presentation. Since then, the Board of Commissioners have received numerous emails and inquiries from citizens and partnering law enforcement agencies on what can be expected going forward, particularly regarding patrol. We've held 2 meetings to discuss this, and the sheriff has since ceased to communicate with the Board of Commissioners. However, the questions that are needing to be asked and answered are what I consider vital for the public to know, such as what metrics were used to establish the patrol schedule of Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 p.m.? Could an alternate schedule have provided more coverage? If not, please explain. How many calls are being received and how many are being responded to? How is the new electronic criminal referral system working? Are we experiencing an increase in crime? How many reports are we behind getting filed to the district attorney? How are we handling our mutual aid agreements with our partner agencies? What can people expect going forward? What crimes will be responded to? Which ones will not be responded to but followed up on and investigated? And which ones can people likely expect to not have follow-up on? With 3 patrol positions And 2, patrol supervisors, not to include the sheriff. What are the contributing factors to having an 87% reduction in referrals to the district attorney when comparing 47 referrals in August of 23 to 6 referrals in August of 24? Understanding that patrol deputy positions were reduced, is that the only factor? What are the reasons the sheriff's office denied response to a search and rescue request on August 18th when SAR is fully funded? Is there any validity to the reports that partnering agencies have offered to advocate to find ways to assist and were told not to, particularly the Oregon State Police? If so, for what reason? Is the sheriff's office intentionally withholding public safety resources when they are available? It is our duty to the public to not only ask the hard questions, but to also answer them the best we can. These questions are not accusations, but rather an opportunity to inform people who will be empowered with that information going to the ballot box. It is essential to make appropriate budget decisions. It is also essential to make appropriate budget decisions going forward. Make no mistake. There are also people who have publicly stated that the BOC is overstepping our role and duty to the citizens by requesting this information, as far as going to call for a recall of the commissioners. As the governing body that is required to represent the people on all matters of county business and is entrusted with the fiduciary duty to oversee the use of our tax dollars, I would hope that asking questions as to how that money is being spent and the subsequent services being provided would be expected. ORS 206.010, General Duties of Sheriff, subsection 5, states that the sheriff shall attend, upon call, the Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, Oregon Tax Court, Circuit Court, Justice Court, or County Court, held within the county, and to obey its lawful orders and directions. ORS 558.200, definition of county court, states, county court includes Board of County Commissioners. Continuing to not discuss these matters publicly is not only potentially violating the responsibility of those general duties, but it is increasing division and ultimately placing undue stress and potential harm upon our community. As I see it, each one of us is dedicated and feel a responsibility to solve this and do the best we can for the citizens. Not having this information and cutting off public communication doesn't remove the problem. It only limits our understanding in working to solve it. I realize this isn't providing certainty, confidence, or even a solution to that matter. I also realize that discussing internal communication struggles can be frowned upon. But when those internal breakdowns directly impact the people of our county, they need to be discussed. We are not perfect, but we are accountable, and I would expect nothing less, nor would I expect you to. My commitment is to communicate, be strong enough to make hard calls, informed enough to ensure accurate information is provided, and humble enough to be accountable for those actions that are taken. There is still time to fix this by simply communicating. But every day that we don't, it is a day further from the solution. The best solutions require engagement, communication, and idea sharing. I would prefer this method to make informed decisions. But if continued too long, decisions will have to be made with the information we have, or in this case, don't have. I feel that much of this is being driven by ego and fueled by outside influences who find purpose in creating some level of chaos that they feel will right some perceived injustice, whether previous or current. I ask them, to what end does that serve? We can do this, and I am more resolute in my determination to move forward than I have ever been. I would just like to do so with the information needed to make the best decisions. Being elected or appointed to a position of leadership doesn't mean we are burdened with the responsibility. It means we are obligated and accountable to it. That's all I have.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Very factual, very well said. I could not agree with you more. And I think your point of outside influences is 100% spot on. I would walk across that street right now and sit down with the sheriff and have a conversation with him about all of this stuff right now.
Well,
He knows that.
but it's beyond that. So what I would say is this.
It is.
A perfect example is exactly what happened today with Lieutenant Crone. Lieutenant Crone came in with an issue that he was trying to solve. We had a lot of discussion about it, and we may come up with a suitable solution that we can live with financially and ethically, and also with the outcome, hopefully, that can concur. But that required communication. It required the ability to have that come forward, seek, to just deliberate about this situation so that we can make the best decision going forward and use shared ideas. Like, that was a great example, and we are one of our main responsibilities is to provide that level of governance for our constituents, and
Yeah.
and I'm like I said, I'm resolute in moving forward in that, determined to get there.
Can I ask you just a couple questions about a couple things I wrote down? You said an 87% reduction?
Yes, so yes, comparing August of 2024 and August of 2023, there was an 87% reduction in referrals to the district attorney's office. Now, there could be a myriad of things. Obviously, the biggest one is because we've had a reduction in patrol.
Sure.
But has there been a reduction in crime? Has there been a reduction in calling it in? Has there been a reduction? Are we working through the process? Because I'm getting a lot of people who are filling out the electronic criminal referral form, and they're questioning, when do I expect to hear back? How can I expect to hear back?
Right.
Has it been received? And so, are there things where we can help shore up that with IT, or how that works?
And I've gotten the same feedback. In fact, there were some questions about serialized property not making it into teletype, that kind of thing, and I don't know if any of that's accurate or not, but that's what people don't know, right? And I don't have an answer for them. You also mentioned a SAR request that was unanswered?
Yeah, so on August 18th, there was I received the CAD of a situation where a 15-year-old boy was stuck on a rock cliff off of Sport Haven. SAR was 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. SAR was requested. It was denied. SAR services were denied. Brookings Fire has a rope team. So Brookings Fire and Harbor Fire responded. The rope team was able to get down the thing, rope down the deal, get this 15-year-old kid back on the beach with his father.
What do you mean they were denied? Who denied?
It's in the CAD. I'll get you the CAD.
Okay.
And then the other thing you said that really jumped out to me, Jay, is OSP is told not to respond.
Well, so I spoke to an OSP officer who mentioned that they had talked to the sheriff about what they could do to assist after the budget was finalized, if there was avenues which they could advocate to provide more assistance, and they were told that, and I don't want us to talk about what they were told, because the sheriff really needs to respond on how he responded, but essentially they were told to kind of stand down.
Wow. Well, I think it was very well stated. I think it was very, very well done. In fact, I don't know how you feel about this, John, but I'd like to take that and put that out as some type of statement or from us. I think the public needs to know that. There's so much misinformation out there right now that's very factual, and I'd like to put that out as
Print
a,
it or
Yeah, and put it as a, I mean, we don't have a PIO, but if we had a PIO, they could put it out, or we could put it out. I'm sure Natasha Ravia could figure that out for us, but I support everything you said in that, Jay, and 100%. I feel exactly the same way. I'm very, very frustrated. The
Well,
whole situation.
the reality is we need to communicate. We have to communicate. I mean, we are literally we're already having to prepare for next season's budget. How do we do that without communication? I would like to provide the opportunity and put on our agenda an opportunity for a public safety update by the sheriff going forward, and should the sheriff choose to take that opportunity, then it will be presented, and we can start the communication, and we can start moving forward, and we can start, solving problems and preparing for next year's budget.
Well, let's put the public safety update right after Director of Operations update. We'll put them together. And here's the thing. No one in this county is going to support any additional funding without a full understanding of where we are with public safety. And we need those updates. We need that metrics for the public to gauge the need and what they're willing to pay for. So I fully support that, Jay.
Well, thanks for letting me get that out.
John?
We've sat in this room at multiple meetings. I think the last time I spoke on this, I said, Sheriff, I know you're not here, but I know you're watching, or you will watch, and we got to have you here. It shouldn't be any problem because you're the only one that gets to walk in with a gun on your hip. I mean, if I get out of line, tase me. But you got to come. We got to talk. We got to communicate.
Well, and you're right. And there's a key word that you used, and there's a key word that you used, Jay. And I said I'll go meet with the sheriff right now. I'm willing to do that. But it's not me. It's we.
It's we.
It's we. The word is we. The three of us, the sheriff, we need to be having these conversations. And we need to be asking the questions. That's a duty and responsibility that we have as a commissioner. That is the responsibility to provide financial oversight. You got to ask questions. So, yeah, we need to have those conversations.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I don't think any of us are telling anyone how to do their job. I think we are just asking how the job is being done.
I would
And
agree.
so I think that's a fair way to assess that.
I would agree. So, are you good putting that out as a statement? John, are you good
Yeah.
with that?
Hi, well, I just did. No, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Just so I don't have to listen to him read it again.
For any further discussion on this? John?
No, sir.
Jay? All right. I've got just two updates that are much lighter than that topic. These are just community events related to our fairgrounds, and I just want to bring them to the public's attention. One is September 27, 28, 29, Terry, is that right? That is the plant swap sale, and it's a fall flower show. And I was also told to mention by Natasha, who's, we all know, enjoys her flowers, the Dragonfly Farms will be there. So if you're a flower enthusiast, you would recognize that name, is what I'm told.
Is that Langley's? Yeah.
The other thing that Terry has been working on that I think is got an enormous amount of potential at the fairgrounds is a Halloween event. And there's a lot of preparation that goes into that, and we need volunteers for that. So we have a meeting tomorrow, Terry, at 5:30, and that's at Dosha Suite. and that's for anybody that might be interested in volunteering. And there's all types of positions to volunteer in, from coordinating to actually playing the role in some of the spooks and goblins and
It's right up your alley. It's
Right,
called-
right. But if anybody's interested in volunteering, that meeting would be great to attend. Terry would appreciate it. And I think it's got a lot of potential to be a really good community event for the county here in Gold Beach. So if anybody's interested, and you can also get a hold of Terry at the fairgrounds. That's all I have. All right. All right, it is 5:20, and we will conclude tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting. Thank you, everyone.